Do solemnly swear that I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States.
How do you tell the story of a presidency? How do you tell the story so far? The story is, in part, but inescapably, the story of a man, which leads inescapably to the fact of who he is. The great mystery of any presidency is that the sovereign people of these United States choose a leader, and then only afterwards, in the day by day, do they find out who that person really is. History reveals this. History throws you what it throws you, and you never know what's coming. Some things about George Bush are well known. His lack of pretension, a sincerity both of action and purpose, a tendency toward candor. There's a sense of humor that's natural. He's even been known to kid around with folks. But some things about him aren't well known at all. When you know him and work with him, what you're struck by is not the secrets that you have to keep, but the truths you'd love to tell. He doesn't like to talk about them, but maybe when we look back at this era and this man, we'll ask, what do a bullhorn and a baseball have in common? What truths can they tell? Which is another way of saying, what did George W. Bush do? Who did he become? And how did that help us? Let me introduce you to 69-year-old Bob Beckwith with the New York City Fire Department. Retired, he volunteered to help at Ground Zero. And this was his first day on the job. He was clearing debris off a crushed fire truck when he was told that someone was coming.
And then, all of a sudden, who comes around the side of the rig but the president? I said to myself, oh my God. I helped him onto the rig. I said, are you okay, Mr. President? He said, I'm good. I went to leave and he said, where are you going? I said, I was told to get off. He put his arm around me and said, no, you stay right with me.
I can hear you, the rest of the world hears you, and the people who knock these buildings down will hear all of us soon.
Some things in history aren't planned. They can't be planned. You just try to rise to the occasion. Just about everybody did those days. But a funny thing about George W. Bush, he was always trying to comfort everyone, and then he'd always come back saying how inspired he'd been by them. Arlene Howard was at the Javits Center that day in New York when the president went to meet with the families. She had just lost her son, another man who'd rushed to the fire. Mrs. Howard told the president she wanted to make sure what George Howard was and who he'd been was never forgotten. So she gave the President of the United States her son's policeman's badge. George Bush took that badge and put it in his pocket, and then he told the nation he would keep it with him to remember all who'd lived so heroically. And to this day, Arlene Howard is his friend. He just rose to the occasion. Just about everybody did those days. The President and the First Lady had gone to Walter Reed Hospital to meet with soldiers wounded in Afghanistan. In Ward 57, the President met Sergeant Mike McNaughton of the Louisiana National Guard, who'd lost his right leg to a landmine. When Sergeant McNaughton revealed that he'd been an avid runner before he was wounded, the President told him, when you're better, come and run with me. So that's what he did.
We were waiting in the White House, and when he came around the corner, and he said, are you ready? And I said, Mr. President, I'm stretched, I'm ready to go, let's go.
They ran the track 3 times, 3 laps on the South Lawn, and then they just hung out for a while. It's hard for a picture to capture a presidency, but maybe a story can tell us something about its meaning. It was October 2001. America had just been hit, and America was uneasy. And some were afraid. He knew. There was a baseball game, the World Series, and it was held in New York. New York was trying to come back, and he knew. And suddenly the White House was calling the mayor's office, which was calling Yankee Stadium. It was the first night of the big series in New York. And look who arrived at Yankee Stadium. Derek Jeter bumped into him before he walked out to the mound, and he said, "Hey, Mr. President, where you going to throw from?" The president said, "Hadn't thought about it. Guess the base of the mound." And Derek Jeter said, "This is New York. In New York, you throw from the mound." And the president laughed. He was wearing a heavy Secret Service bulletproof vest, and he could hardly move his arms. But he knew. So George Bush took the mound. What he did that night, that man in the arena, he helped us come back. That's the story of this presidency. With the heart of a president, he told us, you keep pitching. No matter what, you keep pitching. No matter what, you go to the game. You go to the mound, you find the plate, and you throw, and you become who you are.